Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome again to Time to Talk, our fortnightly conversation about mediumship. I am Raf. I'm here with Guilherme once again. We are the co-hosts of this program. How is it going, Guilherme?
Not bad at all. Very happy to be here again.
Indeed. I'm always happy to be here every 2 weeks, even though I'm always a bit nervous in the beginning. But I think at the end, it's quite a nice energy, I guess, that we take of it. Anyways, for the ones that have joined us in the previous meetings, well, you know the format already. You know that we're here to have a chat, a conversation, bring your comments, drop your questions. We want you to participate as much as possible with us. Um, as usual, I'm going to share my screen here. Today we are on our fourth episode, and our broadcasters, of course, I almost forgot. As usual, we have three main institutions, let's say, or groups behind us. Quick reminder. So both Guilherme and I, we are members of SSL, the Spiritist Society of London, which is a study group dedicated to the study of the Spiritist teachings. SSL is affiliated to BUS, the British Union of Spiritist Societies. BUS is like a federation. It has an umbrella. It's an umbrella organization for the Spiritist Societies in the UK, and it's behind a lot of initiatives to spread the Spiritism teachings. And lastly, Kardec Radio, which is a broadcaster for over 10 years now, bringing to everyone a lot of content around Spiritism. They all have in common this commitment to spreading the good news. They are committed to dissemination of those teachings. If you're interested, go follow them on Facebook, on YouTube, and check their websites. There's a lot of content there. But today, as I said, our fourth episode. Last time that we were here, we were talking about what happens when we die. And it was quite an interesting conversation. There was a lot of participation and comments. So thanks to everyone who joined us. Last week, no, not last week, 2 weeks ago, when we were talking about it, we pretty much brought two main perspectives around what happens when you die. I think the first one was one of the first one. One of them was around the self-awareness perspective, and how confused or not people can be when they pass, based on how prepared they are, how much thought and how much studied they had around the moment, or preparation for the moment, and also based on their merit, who would be around them in the moment that they pass to help them transition, let's say. We also talked a lot about the morphological perspective, which was, I think, the source for a lot of questions from everyone. Guilherme is laughing. And from that morphological perspective, we mentioned André Luiz, and especially in his book, Evolution into Worlds, that he explained to us in that book that in the moment that the body stops working, our mind automatically creates a replica of our bodies that we take with us on the other side. When we were talking about this last week, that's when we received a question from one of you. So Natalia asked us about organs and if we need organs in the spiritual world. And that is pretty much the center of today's conversation, let's say. Guilherme, what did you think of last week's, or the last session conversation?
Well, I thought it was not bad at all, because we managed to bring a subject that is kind of difficult to understand, even to explain. But I think we managed to explain in simple words the main topics, the main parts of it, at least.
Hope so.
But I'm kind of surprised that not many questions came regarding what does it mean? Why is that? I think we need to exercise more our inner child to ask more questions. Why? Because when we are kids, we ask why every 2 minutes. So I think we need to exercise that a little bit more, because I'm pretty sure things that we have spoken last 2 weeks, there was a lot of things that many people may not fully understood or would like to make some further inquiries. So I would like to give an incentive to people that we all need to exercise our inner child a bit more. There is no such a thing as a stupid question, and every question help ourselves and everyone else around us. That means everyone else that is here with us. So don't be ashamed about put a question. Just do it, and we work together. Like tonight, for example, we will start from a question that one of you did. So look how nice is that? You know, one question allow us to create a whole new session. So let's work on this.
Very true. And based on that, let's just get in. So as I said before, we had a question about, we were talking about how the body, a new body is formed once we passed. And that's the main question behind our topic today, right? Do spirits have organs? Because I think that was one of the questions that stayed there that Natalia asked. And do spirits even need or use organs on the other side? How does that work? And what do we mean then with this body? What is this body and organs formed by the mind? But when we die, we don't see this body. What is this body formed of? Where does it go? Why can you not see it? How do we use it? What's the purpose of it? And even I think before we go to try to explain a bit about that, I want us to take a step back so we can explore some other concepts beforehand. These concepts, they are related to the elements that form the universe. So to try to get this common knowledge back in the same level, we went back to the Spiritist book, chapter 2. And let's see what I brought here for you. In the Spiritist book, chapter 2, we have this is just a few passages, right? It's not necessarily the full question, but we have here. We have our body, right? So this body, the physical one that we can touch, that we can feel, that we produce things using it. And then when we pass, we're saying that we have another body that we take. But what is that body formed like? What kind of material is that body formed of? And to try to answer that, I went to the Spiritist book and checked what is matter. What is the element that's used for the different things that we create and we see in the universe? And the spirits told us that Kardec was very clever to ask them in this way. Matter is generally defined as that which has extension, that which can impress our senses, that which is impenetrable. Are these definitions correct? So he pretty much describes anything that's physical, that's matter, and told the spirits, this is what we understand as matter. Is that it? Which the spirits answered very clearly as well. From your point of view, they are correct, because you can only talk about matters that are familiar to you. Matter, however, also exists in other states. It may be so ethereal and subtle that your senses cannot detect it. It is matter nonetheless, even though you do not perceive it. Okay, hold that thought, because it's already starting to kind of give us a bit of a better understanding in terms of, okay, so matter exists, the ones that we know and touch, everything that's solid, let's say, around us, or not necessarily solid, but anyways, material around us. But the spirits are telling us there's also matter that is a bit more different, in a different state that we cannot perceive at the moment with our bodies. If the spirits are telling us that there are other states of matter, what is this other matter made of? What is behind that? What is it? So I went to investigate a bit more. So this time I went to Genesis. I'm going to bring just a quick paragraph here. So in Genesis, another book from Kardec, the Spirits told us, the universal cosmic fluid is the primitive elementary matter, whose modifications and transformations comprise the innumerable variety of bodies found in nature. I'm going to read, it's just 3 little sentences I'm going to read again. First one, it says, primitive elementary matter. It's an elementary matter, so it's the source of everything that we found in nature. It says there, the modification and transformation of that elementary matter is a source, comprise everything, all the bodies that we found in nature. Then it goes on, it doesn't stop there. It goes on and say, as the universal elementary principle, this cosmic fluid, it offers 2 distinct states, etherization, which may be considered a normal primitive state, and materialization, which is in a certain way only consecutive to the form. So now it's me trying to link things, one thing or another. So what we saw in the Spiritist book, now we saw in the Genesis, etherization is what the Spirits told us, that is the state of matter that we cannot perceive in our physical bodies. And materialization is the state that we are used to, is the state where we live in and interact. Do you want to say something, Guilherme? I thought you wanted to say something.
Let me try to make that very simple to try to get everyone on board with this concept. I think we all here know water, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
what is an ice cube? It's water, right?
Yeah, it's frozen water.
If we heat the water, if we boil the water, what happens? It vaporizes, right? But chemically, the water as we drink, the ice cube or the vaporized water has exactly the same structure. So if you think about the water in those 3 different states, that will give us the perception we need to understand what Kardec brought us on the Spirit's book and on the Genesis. Because we don't expect everybody to be fluent in physics or whatever, but we all know water. And it's easy to compare water with what we just said.
Fair. I think it's a very good parallel. So, but if you go back to the previous discussion, if our body is the one that we live in now, this one that I'm touching, is materialized, is a matter that I can touch and feel and make noise with. But when we die, we take a replica with us, with our body, of our organs and everything. Would that then be maybe the other type of matter? That's the ethereal, we're calling ethereal one. Or is it an extension of our soul? Is it made of the spirit? Is it part of this? Is it the spirit itself? So again, I went back to these books, and this time I went back to the Spiritist book. And again, Kardec is very clever. He asked the spirits pretty much the same question. So let me take us to the next one. Still in the same chapter, chapter 2, Kardec asked the spirits, is the spirit independent of matter? Seems like a simple, silly question, but I think it's quite a loaded question. The answer is they are distinct from each other. So the soul is the soul and the matter is the matter. Here, they didn't say it depends. They didn't say, oh, if it's ethereal, is this one. If it's not ethereal, is another one. They didn't say that. They just said, they are distinct from each other. And then further down in those questions, from question 21 to 28. There's just a lot of information there. He asked, so are there two general elements in the universe, matter and spirit, to conclude the thought? And the spirit said, yes. And over everything is God, the creator and author of all. These three elements comprise the principles of all that exists. They are the universal trinity. This is a mic drop moment, because you have here a very prescriptive description of what is the formation of everything, of the universe. And it's telling us you have three main components. You have matter that comes from a single element, which is the universal cosmic fluid. The matter changes, right? Depending on the different states that it's in. You have the spirit and you have God. How simple, isn't it? So, with all of that baseline, I'll try to pull us back to the question of the day. So, if we take the effect when we die, we take this new body with us. This body must be made of this ethereal matter. But the question that Natalia dropped is still unanswered. But why do we have this? Why do we have this body? Why do we need this body? Why do we need these organs? Do we need organs in the spiritual world? And then I will ask you, Guilherme, because I talked a lot already. Do we need spiritual organs in the spiritual world?
Raf, before I move on to that question, I would like to make another comparison on the last question from Kardec, right? We have the body, we have the soul. The body, when we die, is what is left behind to be rotten. The soul is what drives the matter, our body. We may leave a question mark about God, because we only know what the spirits told us. We have no means to even questioning, really. The questions are very specific with specific answers. But we not go that path. We keep body and the soul to understand the next part of our conversation. So now we go to Natalia's question. Well, if you thought a little bit that I'm a bit crazy, tonight you'll be sure I am. Why I'm saying that? Because I will present to you something that is very much alike with our material world. And sometimes it's hard to understand in the first moment. But if we study and if we try to find the source of the information, we will start to have a different perception. Well, there's something that is very well accepted on the Spiritist environment. Everybody clap their hands. And we all say that our spirit, our perispirit, that is our spiritual body, is linked to our physical body, cell to cell. Everybody clap hands. Everybody accept on the Spiritist world that this is a reality. Fair enough. But that's not enough to understand where are the organs, where they are from, what's going on. And I will use the Astral City book as a reference. And perhaps go a little bit further on his other books, but mainly the Astral City as reference from André Luiz and Chico Xavier. In that particular book, I will start with something that's very unusual. And even most of the Spiritists, when they read the first time something en passant, they will not catch the detail. Bear in mind that the Astral City were built from Portuguese lads that went to Brazil at the time the country was discovered. So some of the expressions used on the book is linked to Portugal matter, to Portugal way to say things, to the Portuguese, sorry. And there's one part in particular of the book where they use sala de banho, that means bathroom in English. Then we start to think about, do we have a bathroom in the spiritual world? Well, if you do not agree with me, you need to have a total conversation with André Luiz and Chico Xavier, because they wrote that. Using the bathroom as a basis to our conversation, why do we need a bathroom for? Well, to have a shower, right? Also, to fulfill our basic biological needs. But I think it's fair to say that if I'm going to expel something from my body, liquid or not, it has to have an intake too, right?
I think that is a fair assumption.
Okay.
Very fair.
So at this moment, we are opening the bathroom case to a whole new level, because we now start talking about eating and drinking. Otherwise, I have nothing to expel. Well, now we only have a bathroom to have a shower. Okay? What happens when we run? We sweat, right? So here we go, a different set of organs already working.
I think let me add to this, Guilherme, because when I was rereading Astral City, and just as a reminder for the ones that are not familiar, Astral City is the book that André Luiz is describing his experience, personal experience, when he woke up, let's say, on the other side, or realized on the other side that he had passed. He was just describing what he went through and how he found himself as a dead person. And the example Guilherme is bringing about why would you need to have a shower if you don't sweat, if you don't get dirty? Why would you need to go to a bathroom if you don't expel anything, if you expel something to eat? But there's even some other items that are beyond that. I think the description, if you pay attention to descriptions of pretty much everything, André Luiz describes the sense of touch in the skin, that describes when things are falling down and they touch the skin and disintegrate. He describes crying, sobbing. It's something that he describes multiple times in a therapeutical way and in a problematic way as well. But for us to cry, we need to have the lacrimal glands. For us to sweat, we need to have our sweat glands. So, yes, I think we need at the moment, it seems like at the stage we are, I think we need the organs.
Rafael, one of the biggest problems is that for millennia, we've been told through the church, through other pre-existent knowledge, that when we die, we go to heaven or to hell. That more recently, people start to think and wonder that when we die, we are a little gas balloon, and we can do everything by thought. But that is a really strange concept, because it's something missing. It's something missing. And when we go through the Astral City and we start to analyze the details of what we are doing, we start to think like we do have food. We do have water in the spiritual realm, in the spiritual world.
Medicine.
They do describe, they have equipment to investigate your internal organs. Well, but is there. I'm not saying, I'm just bring to you all what is written there. And by the way, it does make sense if we spend time to really investigate that. Why we need food, right? Now, everything is energy. How do you fulfill your energy needs on Earth? You
By
eat.
eating and by resting.
So at this point, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people saying, oh, well, yeah, he told us in the beginning. You would think he's crazy. But I have to bring something else for you. The spiritual world, at least the spiritual world close to us, close to the Earth, is pretty much the same as we have here.
Yeah. It's like a mirror.
In different states of the materia, or the matter.
Guilherme.
Is that hard to swallow? Yeah. And the first time we hear that, yeah, it's not easy to swallow, because we've been told for God knows how long that we're going to heaven, right? And the reality is, as I said in the beginning, we all believe the spirit, the perispirit, our spiritual body, is connected to our physical body cell by cell. But when I start to bring to you those little topics, bathroom, food, water, there are fish, there are trees, there are vegetables, is written there clearly, and it's not only on this book. People don't want to. They decide not to make the link between both. But if you exercise, yeah, carry on.
Can I think if I think about the information I received before and the things I studied and I read, it's very, to me, there's an idea that once you pass to the other side, once you are in this spiritual world, you don't have the need for the same physical things that we have here. And because you know that our spirit just goes on, our spirit is not matter, and therefore we would not need material things, or we would not need to eat, or not need to, have showers or anything. But I think you were getting to that point, to be honest. But there's a distinction between the levels of development, let's say, that the spirits can find themselves in. And remember when I think last week when we were talking about how the body, how the mind kind of creates this replica of the body when it passes, is that if you think that our brain is the one running the whole body in autopilot, so by the time that we pass, the brain is still powered by our mind, our spirit. So that part of the brain is pretty much running autopilot. It still runs in autopilot. That's why, and that's how it kind of creates, in a very simplistic way, the other body.
Let me just. I'll get lost. Too many information. Come on.
Okay,
Let me speak a little bit.
Okay.
First of all, to make things understandable, the spirits, the disincarnated spirits, they can go through matter here. On the spiritual world is a different thing. Our body is an assemble of a couple of things. What we are when we are in flesh and bone is the physical body, the spiritual body, and the spirit. Those three things, basically, there are a little bit more, but I'm not going to overload information. These three things are intermeshing. They are together when we are here. When we die, the physical body disintegrated. We still have the spiritual body and the spirit itself. Okay? At that moment, when we are not on earth anymore, to easy understanding, we can touch things. We feel resistance of things to lift. the weight, the mass. Because at that moment, what has left our physical body is matter on the spiritual world. A lot of people don't distinguish that very well. That's why it creates a little of confusion. But what is matter on the spiritual world offer the same resistance, the same problems, or the same results as we have here on earth with material things. And that's clear on this book. Otherwise, we will not need industries, we will not need transportation, we will not need toilets, bathrooms, as we spoke, food, things like that. So this is the first thing.
I want to use that as a hook, because we already talking about like this spiritual body and so on. You already used the word perispirit, so I'm going to bring a definition of perispirit, a paragraph from perispirit, so you can have a think about it. So we don't imagine, are these organs like all flying around? How does it work? Is it a balloon? Do we carry a balloon with the organs with us? How does that work? And pretty much this three elements connected that compose us. The perispirit is pretty much in the middle, right? So let me bring to us another slide. That's the one. Okay. So I went back again to the Spiritist book. This one's a bit long, but just bear with me. That was to describe what is this spiritual body? What is this perispirit? And the Spiritist book in the introduction says, the link or perispirit unites the body and the spirit. It is a sort of semi-material envelope. Death destroys only the denser envelope, as Guilherme mentioned. Yeah, the physical body. The spirit retains the perispirit, which comprises its ethereal body. The perispirit is invisible to us in its normal state, but the spirit can render it visible and even tangible as occurs during the phenomenon of apparitions. Second paragraph. Therefore, a spirit is not an abstract, indefinable being that can only be conceived by thought. It is a real circumscribed being that in certain cases may be perceived by our senses of sight, hearing, and touch. Here we are starting to touch again the ability to communicate and interact between the spiritual world and the incarnate world. But even before we go there, there's an element here that's bringing some clarity that I think it's important to make. That even though when we were describing the passing, we were describing that there's like this formation, so to speak, of the perispirit. Actually, the perispirit is always with the spirit. So as just a clarification, it's not that when we die, we create the perispirit. No. We always have the perispirit. Our body is actually formed based on the perispirit that we have attached, let's say, as spirits. Why am I saying this? Guilherme, Guilherme is smiling. Why are you smiling, Guilherme?
I'm smiling because I'm thinking about what we said in the last session.
Yeah.
When we die, we create organs. So we need to understand that sometimes organs can be like a skin. What is the largest organ in your physical body? Is the skin. So we need to keep our mind open to everything we are saying here. It's very easy to say no, it does not exist. Let's start put things together. Let's start to keep our minds open, and eventually you will have questions.
Yeah. So why am I bringing this additional information about us as spirits? We always have the perispirit with us, and we will, let's say, reconfigure the perispirit when we die and take with us, and when we come to life again, not even going to touch reincarnation yet. But when you come to life again, we bring the perispirit with us and so on. Because I'm going to go to another comment that we received last week. John, last week, put a comment in the middle of our conversations about when we are alive, that every time we go to sleep, we are practicing for when we die. So that was the question I had, to be honest. So is this perispirit then? Does it coexist when we are incarnate? We have a perispirit. When we die, we have a perispirit. Is it just when we die? So what's going on? What is this perispirit? And what does he mean by this question? What does he mean by this question? Each day we practice for death when we go to sleep. And how is that connected to this spiritual body? If I have my physical body here, and now he's saying that when I sleep, I'm practicing for when I die. So does that mean I take my spiritual body? How does that work? How does that work? Guilherme, I'm confused. What is it?
Here we go again. Well, when we brought the subject perispirit, our spiritual body, and psychosoma, there's so many names, and we want to prepare ourselves to that question, right? What John said is spot on. Why is that? Because every time when we go to bed late in the evening and we sleep, we relax some of the links between our physical body and our spiritual body. We call that detachment or split. Our spiritual body is split, in simple words, from our physical body. When that happened, what happened to our spiritual body? There is always a link between our spiritual body and our physical body when we are incarnated. Sometimes we stay pretty close of our body. We don't leave the room. Sometimes we start to go a little bit further. We can go distances that you wouldn't believe. But then, why? Because we remain spirits. The only difference between these incarnated and incarnated spirits is the physical body. And that particular moment of the day, when we are resting, sleeping, we're still spirits. And we can go a bit beyond our bedroom. We can go to nice places and bad places. We can help people or make people miserable because we are spirits. But that's not the topic of tonight. And the most important things to reinforce and to say that John is totally right is that before I go that way, let me ask a question. Did anyone here in this room ever felt falling from the sky and wake up in a bit scared? Like,
Yeah,
what happened?
Yeah, I know I have a few times. It's like you're sometimes almost falling asleep, and then you just kind of as a scare, and then you kind of wake up out of almost like jumping out of bed. I had that before.
Yeah, and sometimes even when we are in deep sleep, we wake up like a massive shock, right? Like we're falling from somewhere, and then there's a massive shock.
Yeah.
In our perspective, this could quite well be that we were somewhere during our excursion, during our sleep, and we had to rush back to our physical body because the physical body protects us against few things we'll hear in the future. So when that happens, wake up, yeah, that's fine. We always will be fine. There's no record on the Spiritist lecture saying that when we wander about, we never come back. So this is just to give a glance of what John brought to us, and that explains what he was trying to tell us in simple words.
Let me get summarize in a few sentences. So we talked about matter and what's matter, the origin, the element that's behind everything. We said that we have spirit and matter as separate things. Then we're saying that our body is made of matter. We have, apart from our body, we have this other element that links our body to our soul, to our spirit, which we call perispirit, or spiritual body. We're coming to the understanding that when we die, we take that perispirit with us. It remains with us. Our body remains here, right? And disintegrates and goes on, or it's cremated or whatever. But the perispirit goes on. But we're now also saying that when we are here, alive, incarnate, we still have this perispirit, because that's the link between our spirit and our body. How does that connect to mediumship, which at the end of the day is what we're trying to talk about in these sessions?
Mm-hmm.
How is it that the spirits then use their spiritual body and their organs to communicate with us? So is it because the spirit in the perispirit has vocal cords, and then he uses the spiritual vocal cords to talk to us? Is that how it works? What is the link then between the spirits and the spiritual body and mediumship?
Well. Before I go that path, let me just reiterate that as spirits, we do have a heart, a beating heart. We do have lungs, we breathe. We do have eyes, we see. We do have every single organ as we do when we are incarnated. Pay attention on what I'm saying. Every single one. That open up a can of worms to give you all a huge incentive to do a research and to study the matter. It's very important to not accept what we are saying here. Internet is a powerful tool. Libraries nowadays, you can find almost everywhere. Do your research. I strongly advise you to do. Don't take anything we say for granted. We want to give you the incentive to study. Okay, but now going back to your question, yes, how does spirit communicate? Oh my God, this is one of the major, the major problem for the mediums. That is the major problem for the mediums, because this is what is scared them at most. Because a lot of mediums, they think their spirit will jump inside their bodies and may stay there forever. Why do you think about that? Because there's a lot of cartoons, there's a lot of movies that may convince people that that's what happened.
Yeah.
Right?
That's how we see like the possessions and that kind of stuff.
Exactly. And sometimes people do not spend enough time trying to break that image. But what happened in reality is we are a physical body, and we also are a perispirit. We are a perispirit. There is a perispirit from the disincarnated being that needs to communicate. They get closer. At that moment, you have mind-to-mind connection. Mind-to-mind connection. How that happened? Is that a fraction of seconds? No. Sometimes the benefactors, they bring the spirit that will have this communication to start to integrate with the medium a couple of days before the meeting. Average 24 hours before. Why? Why is that? Let's think about energy. I have here a high energy and a lower energy. In order to have a communication between those 2 points, you need to equalize the energy. Only at that point you are able to establish the required connection. At that moment, when we have perispirit and perispirit talking, the medium always have control of his body. Sometimes when he's learning, he don't know how to do it, or he believes he don't have that power, but he does. It's a learning process, but he does. At that moment, when the connection is made, we can have a verbal dialogue through the medium or a written dialogue through the medium. The process is pretty much the same. Equalization, interconnection, perispirit to perispirit. He's beside me. He's not inside me. He's just beside me. At that moment, when the connection is made, he's able to express his thought through your thought and through your vocal organs, or through your arms, through your hand. Without going in very deep information, it's pretty much what happened.
I have a question though, because the way you're describing, the way you're describing is that this is for when we are in a mediumship session. You are receiving the information either through your thoughts or your, I guess, always through your thoughts. How does it work then for, and what's the relation with the perispirit for the physical effects? So when we were talking like a couple of series ago, a couple of episodes ago, that we were talking about the turning tables and the knocks and noises and so on, where it wasn't the passage of an idea through the voice or anything. How is that different?
Let me give some thought, some food for thought, and because this is very nice to a future topic where we can really go in depth on that matter. There are several types of mediums. The one in particular that is directly linked to the phenomena of turning tables or raps or knockings, things like that, is the physical effect medium. What does it mean? Basically, that type of medium has an additional energy that he can spend, and that energy can be used by the spirits to promote some of what we said. Okay, what kind of energy is that? Charles Richet, that we can talk about him, he's scientist. He made a lot of exercises, a lot of experiments with mediums, and he was a scientist too. And he started to use a word ectoplasm. There's a debate if he was the first one to use or not, but at least he's the most famous one that started to use that word. Ectoplasm basically is our energy that we exteriorize, that can be handled, manipulated by the spirits to make some physical effects. Like you said, the turning table or the raps, a lot of things that we see like in the States. I forgot the name now. Anyway, I'll remember later. When we see that things flying around, door breakings, poltergeist is the word, right? Poltergeist basically is a physical effect. You need to have a medium around because you need to have the essence, the energy to be able to do it. So that is a particular type of medium. And in the future, we can talk about ectoplasmic meetings, we can talk about materializations, we can talk about a few other things that are related to that particular type of medium. Did I answer your question?
Yes, but so if you go back to what we were talking before about the universal cosmic fluid. In the end, matter is all universal cosmic fluid. So what you're saying is the ectoplasm, which is this sort of, it's a state of matter that's a bit different than the ones we're used to, but it's an intermediate one that the spirits can more easily handle, let's say, to do that. How is that linked to the perispirit then?
Really? Well,
We might leave it for another talk if it's too much.
Okay, let me try to bring a little bit of information about ectoplasm. Okay, we all can exteriorize ectoplasm. The animals can exteriorize ectoplasm. Vegetables also can. So basically, every living being can exteriorize ectoplasm. There is a theory that ectoplasm is generated from the mitochondria. Let's go when we were 10 years old having chemical physical lessons. So mitochondria is a base of energy of the ectoplasm. We have thousands, millions of them in our body, and they working together through, how can I say that, to the right manipulation of the individual or the spirits, we can exteriorize. There are two types of ectoplasm. One we cannot see, that's the most common, and one that is dense. We can see, there are pictures in the library, Spiritist library. Few pictures, quite nice actually. You can exteriorize through your nose, through your ears, and elsewhere. This ectoplasm is energy, pure energy. And to those that may say, here we go again, he lost the plot again. I would like to remind that in the recent past, our science, proved that our body is pure energy. The matter is pure energy. Condensated energy turns into matter, right? So if I have no means to argue with the science, so I take as a granted. And going back to ectoplasm, right? There was a medium at the time. Actually, there are a few of them. There's Douglas Holmes here in Scotland. There are Peixotinho in Brazil. There are several. I'm not going to spend here time speaking about all of them. When they donate ectoplasm in quantity, the weight of the physical body reduce. How do you know that? Because people like Charles Richer, he measured it through ectoplasm sections. When the medium was donated, he was on top of the balance or the gauge, and he could measure the weight of the person decreasing as he was donating ectoplasm. There is one case in particular in Brazil where the size of the body of the medium shrinked to a level that is hard to believe. How do I know that? Because I know a person that was part of those meetings. He was an eyewitness of those meetings. And I'm still talking to him from time to time. He's 96 years old now, because that happened on the late 60s, I think. No, early 60s, to be more precise. So it's hard to swallow all of it. But ectoplasm, basically, to allow us to better understand, is energy from ourselves that we exteriorize to help people, to treat people. Some cases you don't even know you're doing, and then you have those poltergeist thing that everybody's scared of. But the mechanism behind is exactly the same.
Interesting. I think probably there is enough around ectoplasm as a topic for us to explore a lot in in the future sessions.
Just one thing, as you said, is enough. There are some spiritual surgeries made,
yeah, I was going to mention that. Yeah,
where you use ectoplasm to even replace parts of the faulty organ. But I'm not going to talk about that.
not today, but maybe later. I'm looking here at questions. Today we did not receive a lot of questions, but we received some. We kind of already directed them, so it's fine. I will ask people, look, if you have any comments or questions, please drop them in and we will address them live. We have like 4 minutes left, and we still have like a few other items that we wanted to talk about, but I feel like you won't be able to talk about now. But things that we need to follow up on. Now that we have the understanding that this very spirit exists and that it functions, it operates as a body. I think that's dependent on your level of development, let's say, or enlightenment, let's say. It might function be closer to our physical body when we are incarnate, or a bit further from the body, but we still have a body. But I think the link that Guilherme was mentioning, when we see the mediums receiving messages and so on, that link that occurs from perispirit to perispirit, that the perispirit is what allows mediumship to happen in the end. The messages should be received in the end.
Rafael,
Yeah.
I don't think we have much time. And I think it's very important to say that to do or to participate in mediumship meetings, we need a serious method. It's not something like we just decide and play around. So we're going to talk about that again, the next event, the next session. But if you could just show that picture showing what is, to give people an idea, what is a meeting room that we perform such meetings.
There you go.
As you can see, there is an organization. You need in front of you, the medium, paper, pen. You need to have an organized environment, calm environment. You have X amount of chairs for the mediums on the table, at the table. And eventually you have some chairs externally to mediums that will give energy support. So that's just to give an idea, because I don't want people to think that mediums can work on any scenario, everywhere, everything happens anytime, any moment. Just to give people an idea.
Nice.
That's it for me.
Yeah, it looks very non extraordinary, let's say.
No. Simple but organized. That's what we need.
Yeah. Okay. Look, I will close today's episode. I think we shared a lot. I think it was a heavy content, to be honest. But I will expect people to drop us questions for next time. There's also a link in the description of our episodes that you can, if you're not comfortable just opening up, you can do an anonymous comment. Just click on the link or scan the QR code that I'm going to show in the end. And you won't be mentioned or anything, but you can leave your comments or questions there. Before we close for good, there's a little video of an event that is coming up online in a few weeks, and it would be great if you're interested, if you want to join and participate. I'm going to show the video. After that, I'm going to show the sources for the books we used today, and that is going to be it. Thank you, everyone, once again. I hope it was useful, enlightening, and again, if you have comments, questions, send them our way. Guilherme?
Well, thank everyone. It's a pleasure to be here again. And hopefully we managed to solve some doubts or create a lot more. And that's our goal as well. We need people to study. We need people to participate with us. So either way, we are happy to contribute with you if you can.
Very good. Thank you, everyone. See you next time. Bye.
Vivência Espírita.